What's up, everybody? Here to go over UFC Nashville, Sandhagen versus Font. I almost said 291 again. Sandhagen versus Font was supposed to be Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov. Unfortunately, Nurmagomedov couldn't compete in the fight, and that's the fight we all really wanted to see. But Rob Font's a good guy to fill in for him. Rob Font's an exciting fighter, so still looking forward to it, man. But real quick, I'm going to go over the results from last week as far as just my bets. My two big plays on the card hit. I had a 2-unit play on Wood and Muradov, and that was a plus 108, so that's a good bit of profit there, being a plus money play. Over 2 units of profit brought in on that one. And then I had another play on Alvarez. It was a 1-unit play at minus 140. And I had a couple of small plays on some underdogs that didn't hit, which they were all underneath a quarter unit. So I basically had a unit. I brought in 3 units, actually more than 3 units, because one of my parlays hit, and lost 1 unit. So I came out with, just on these, I came out with about 2 units of profit. And then let me pull up what my top line parlay hit. So how I do these, guys, is the ones at the top, I usually start off with I'll put like 100. I had $150 on this one at the top. That was a plus 487. That's the one that hit. Below that, it goes down, to like 50, and then $30, and then whatever, just depending on how big the parlay is. I don't ever put too much on these big parlays because for the most part they don't usually hit. But the one that did hit was Muradov, Wood, Aspinall, Alvarez, and Zaim. And plus 487. Like I said, I had about $150 on that, so that was a pretty good payout as well. So it was all around a pretty good event. As far as my picks go, it could have been a lot better. I did pick a whole lot of dogs on that card, and basically the first half of the card didn't go my way that much, and then the end of the card did. So, like I said, I had Barres, Ashmos, Kianzed, Kulibal, all picked as parlay or as underdogs, and they lost. But I did tell you, man, I'm proud of 2 of my picks because I picked Storlianenko to win by armbar because I knew that Molly McCann didn't have a ground game. And I don't think if there were any other channels out there that said that, please let me know in the comments because I think that was a pretty unpopular pick. A lot of people were saying they couldn't believe I was picking Storlianenko over McCann. And then I also picked Paul Craig to win. I did pick him to win by submission, and he ended up getting the finish, which is pretty impressive. He has a way of looking real crappy, throughout throughout his fights, and somehow coming back and getting the win. So, it was cool, man. He beat Andre Muniz, a big upset. So that was pretty cool too, man. And I think I picked like 8 of the fights right. So could have been a lot better, but I was happy at least with the Storlianenko pick and the Craig pick. All right, so nobody won the contest for the autographed UFC merch. If y'all want to continue participating in that, I'm still doing it for UFC 291. You can go over and comment on that video, or you can comment on this video, and you just got to pick the 3 winners. You can pick one winner by decision, and then the other 2 have to be submission or knockout, and you have to tell me which round. So method of victory, which round, and you can have 1 decision. So 3 picks and 1 decision. And what else? What I do if you're new to the channel is I go through and give out all my predictions for the fights, and then at the end of the video I give out my bets and my parlays for this card. And if you're not interested in watching my videos and you just want to see my parlays and my bets, you can go over to Instagram and look at my Instagram's highkick_fight picks. You see all my stuff on there as well. And please give me a follow, man, if you don't mind. It helped me out. And then I also started a Facebook group, which is High Kick Fight Picks on Facebook. It's pretty easy to find. Not so many people in it yet, but I've been having a few come up, so appreciate you guys for that. And I'm available on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, iTunes, Pandora, all the major streaming platforms pretty much. And and I also post all my stuff in the community tab on my YouTube channel. So if you're subscribed to my channel, my flyers and stuff will pop up in your feed, and you can see them that way as well. And yeah, that's about it for all that, man. Please like and subscribe, man. It would help me out a lot. Um, yeah, man. So let's take a look at what fights we lost here so far, man, because we have lost a lot of fights. Verna Janurova versus Tatiana Suarez. Tatiana Suarez is taking on, who was that? Jessica Andrade on short notice. We lost Said Nurmagomedov versus Kyler Phillips. Phillips is fighting Barcelos instead. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley's fighting Cody Durden. We lost Oven St. Preux versus Ian Kutalaba. Already talked about the Nurmagomedov. And then Sean Woodson was supposed to be taking on Steve Garcia, and Sean Woodson is taking on Jesse Butler instead. So this originally was quite a bit better card than it is now. I mean, there's still some good fights on here. I see some of the stuff's been rearranged since I did my notes. And there's still a lot of good fights, man. It would have been a whole lot better, though, if some of these fights had stayed on there. And yeah, man, so let's get into it. First fight, it's going to be Ode Osbourne take on Asu Almabaev. And real quick, hold on, let me track that fight down because it was way further down the card, man. Okay, so Ode Osbourne is 31 years old. He's 5'7" with a 72-inch reach. He is 12-5 and 4-3 in the UFC, and he's a plus 124 underdog. Yeah, I used to, I used to think very highly of Osbourne. Man, he has all kinds of potential. Sometimes he looks amazing, but every time I put my faith in him, he gets knocked out. And then his last fight, him and Charles Johnson both just looked horrible. They were both gassed out and sloppy, and I just couldn't believe how bad they looked. Being professional UFC fighters, looking that bad. And having watched all their other fights, usually Ode's way more exciting than that, and he doesn't get as tired. But Ode's very fast and explosive. 4 wins by knockout, 5 by submission. He does leave his chin up in the air, too much at times. That's how he got caught by Tyson Nam. We don't have a reach on Almabaev, but I'm pretty sure Ode's going to have a reach advantage on him. He's a pretty big flyweight. He fights southpaw. He keeps his hands real low. He's good at countering. Countering and throwing long combinations. Lots of nice front kicks up the middle. If I hadn't seen Osbourne's last fight, I would pick him all day here, no questions asked, because he does look very impressive sometimes. And it's just you never know what you're gonna get, and I kind of really do want to pick him in this spot, man, and I still haven't quite decided, but I don't know what's up with in his last fight, why he gassed out so badly. Most of his wins are early finishes. I'm just really worried about his cardio. But other than that, he's a very talented guy, man. He's a very talented striker. You just never know what you're going to get, So he's taking on Asu Almabaev. He is 29 years old, 5'5". We don't have a reach on him. It's 17-2, and this is going to be his UFC debut. And he's a minus 144 favorite. And he's fought a lot of tough guys over in Brave FC and M1 Global. He has a freestyle wrestling background, and he was a Kazakhstani jiu-jitsu champion. He's got great takedown defense, dangerous submissions, a really good guillotine choke. He looked really impressive. I wouldn't say that he's better than the other guy that just came over from the same scene as him, Azat Maxim. I wouldn't say he's quite as good as him, but he has looked impressive nonetheless. And I honestly don't know how those two guys have never fought over there, being undefeated fighters over in the, undefeated in Brave FC and M1 Global. And they're in the same weight class. So, but anyways, Asu has 3 wins by knockout, 8 by submission. I think Osbourne's going to have a major advantage on the feet and the striking from what I've seen. And Ode is going to be a way bigger guy. And, but if Almabaev gets him down, he may get the win. If he can get Ode down and control him. But based on what I've been watching, Osbourne does have a very good shot at winning this. If he's in good shape with good cardio, that is, And for now, man, I just don't think I can trust Osbourne enough, based on what I've seen in his last fight. So for now, I'm going to pick almabaev, but if the plus money gets way bigger on Osbourne, I'll probably put him in my parlays. Just wish I knew how the cardio was going to look on Osbourne. So be taking almabaev by decision. Next up, we got Jake Hadley taking on Cody Durden. And sorry, I got to scroll around to find all these fights because they're out of order now. Jake Hadley is 27 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. He is 10-1 and 2-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 180 favorite. And yeah, Jake's a very talented prospect. He got out-grappled in his debut against Nascimento, but that's okay because Nascimento is one of the best grapplers in the UFC, in my opinion. And Jake's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage in this fight. He's got 3 wins by knockout, 5 by submission. He's very dangerous on the ground, from top position or off his back. His striking has looked amazing. It looks better every time we see him. Tons of volume. He hits very hard for a flyweight. He fights southpaw, and he really hammers those calf kicks. And, great striking defense. What he does, if you pay attention to him, when he's blocking punches, he lifts his right elbow up to block punches, to block the strikes, and instead of just straight covering up with both hands like a lot of people do. And it's very impressive, man. Throws a lot of really fast combinations, pushes a really tough pace over 3 rounds. Really digs those liver shots. That's how he won the Malcolm Gordon fight. And he counters very well. He's well-rounded. All his fights are fun to watch, and this should be a very exciting fight while it lasts. And as long as his takedown defense holds up, I think he'll do well. But will it hold up against Cody Durden? I don't know. I think Hadley's, takedown defense is pretty good. Just because Nascimento out-grappled him, I think, Nascimento can out-grap most fighters in the flyweight division. So, and he's taking on Cody Durden. He is 32 years old, 5'7", with a 67-inch reach. He is 15-4-1 and 4-2-1 in the UFC. And he's a plus 155 underdog. So I guess that it's finally time that I admit, that Cody Durden is a pretty good fighter. He has great wrestling. That's his best weapon. 6 wins by knockout, 5 by submission. If you look at the two of these guys and how these guys have been winning fights, obviously Hadley has been a lot more impressive. He's been finishing fights. Cody is very fast and explosive, but his striking is kind of wild. He's kind of wild. But he is very good at backpacking guys, taking the back and holding it. Throughout most of the round. Can be pretty boring, but it's dominant, I guess. And he kind of does as little as possible, and he does tire out most of the time in the 3rd round. He's pretty tired. And the only advantage that Cody really has in this fight is his wrestling. Hadley has better cardio and striking, the speed advantage. Cody has proved me wrong a lot of times, man, but I'm going to be taking Hadley to get the win here. I'm going to take him to get the win by second round knockout. And hopefully Cody doesn't prove me wrong again. So next up we got Sean Woodson taking on Jesse Butler. And Sean is 31 years old, 6'2", with a 79-inch reach. He is 9-1-1 and 31-1 in the UFC. And he is a minus 500 favorite. And, Sean's very tall, long guy for this weight class. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage. 6'2" is very tall for this weight class, for featherweight. And he was a big favorite in his last fight as well. And honestly, he didn't look very good, man, which sucks because I'm pretty high on, Sean Woodson. He got dropped a few times in the 1st round, got hit with an illegal shot, and it's probably the only reason he didn't get finished. And, if his opponent hadn't lost a point in his last fight, Sean would have lost that fight. So, I would like to see Sean go up a weight class and put up a bunch of muscle on those legs of his. And, he's a great striker, very sharp with his striking, uses his jab very well, nice straight shots down the middle, and uses his reach very well. Very good at using his reach and his length. And does his best work at range rather than, rushing his opponent. That's how he got dropped in his last fight. He gave up some takedowns. A lot of holes in his game were exposed in his last fight. Um, he is very dangerous off of his back with his long legs. I mean, he constantly throws up submissions. All that being said, this is a very winnable fight for him. I'm a big fan of Woodson. I want to see him win, and look for those hard hooks to the body that that he was throwing. Which fight was that he was Colin Anglin? That's who it was, I think. Yeah, it was Colin Anglin. He was busting him up to the body and then caught him with a head kick when he started dropping his hands. And what else? Yeah, it's Sean's got 3 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. Not primarily known for his ground game, but he did look pretty dangerous off of his back, in his last fight. And he's taking on Jesse Butler, 31 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. He is 12-5 and 0-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 375 underdog. Excuse me. So Butler made his debut, up a weight class against Jim Miller, and he got knocked out very quickly. I don't really know what he was doing there. I mean, he has 1 win by knockout, 8 wins by submission. I don't know what he was doing, out there brawling with Miller like that when he's not primarily known for his striking. Butler does have good submission defense. He's never been submitted. He's looked good in his regional fights, but if you look at the records of the guys he's been fighting, he hasn't fought a lot of guys with good records. And he has very good grappling and jiu-jitsu, which could serve him well in this fight. We did see Sean getting taken down in his last fight. Butler is very aggressive off of his back. There's a lot to like, but it's hard to say until we see him fighting on a little bit a higher level of competition. And the last 2 guys he fought before Jim Miller were, what were they? 17-9 and 14-8. So obviously not the highest level of competition. He's going to need to use his grappling to win this fight. And, Sean is better on the feet for sure. I'm going to be picking Sean to get the win, but I wouldn't get very heavily invested in it. Probably throw him in some of my bigger parlays. At the price, it's not really worth much more than that. Sean, I'm going to take him to win by decision just because Jesse Butler's pretty tough, but he did get knocked out in his last fight, but Sean hasn't exactly. Well, I guess he did get that head kick knockout, but other than that, he hasn't been getting any finishes in the UFC. So I will take him to win by decision. As long as his takedown defense holds up, I think he'll be all right. Next up, we got Jeremiah Wells taking on Carlston Harris. And Jeremiah Wells is 36 years old, 5'9", with a 74-inch reach. He is 12-2-1 and 4-0 in the UFC, and he's a minus 161 favorite. I'm a big fan of Wells. I've had money on him in every fight he's had in the UFC so far. And he showed us that he can do it all. He's very powerful, big power in his hands, fast, explosive. He showed us he's got great jiu-jitsu. In his last fight, he showed us that he can get hurt and use his wrestling and get in his cardio to get the win. 5 wins by knockout, 4 by submission. He trains with Sean Brady and all those guys. He's at a very good camp. The guy that Wells is fighting here is no joke at all. A lot of people, kind of underestimate Harris. Wells is insanely strong in his grappling. Look out for his big left hook or his overhand right on the taller opponent. And he's taking on Carlston Harris. He is 36 years old, 6 foot tall with a 76-inch reach. He is 18-5 and 3-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 141 underdog. And Harris is, like I said, very underrated. His only loss in the UFC was against Shavkat Rakhmonov, the future champ. Harris has 5 wins by knockout, 5 by submission. He's very tall. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. He did get caught in with some good shots when he was fighting Jared Gooden his last time out, and he used his wrestling to get the victory. His boxing is pretty sharp. He's very open to leg kicks at times. He wasn't checking very many of those, and he has good double leg takedowns. He has very good balance when someone's trying to take him down. Harris is pretty good all the way around, man, but Wells just keeps finding ways to win. And I'm not totally sure Wells will be able to get Harris down, but I am going to be picking Wells to get the win. I'm going to take him to win by first round knockout. I think Harris's takedown defense might be a little bit too much for Wells. This fight worries me. That's why I'm not really getting heavily invested in it either, because Carlston Harris actually is a very good fighter, and but I will be taking Wells to get the win by round one KO. Next up, we got Rowney Barcelos taking on Kyler Phillips, and Rowney is 36 years old, 5'7", with a 67-inch reach. He is 17-4 and 6-3 in the UFC, and he's a plus 143 underdog. And Howney is a very good, very well-rounded. Late into his career, we've seen him appear to slow down a bit, but I don't really know if that's the case. Maybe it's just more of the case of, just Umar Nurmagomedov is very good. He caught him with a crazy little punch and knocked Barcelos out. We've never seen Barcelos done like that before. Barcelos, has amazing Muay Thai, hard calf kicks. Even has a freestyle wrestling background, and he competed in tournaments in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo. And he had black belts in both of those by the time he was 20 years old. He throws good combinations. I like how he'll throw the straight right and come over the top with the head kick right behind it. The guys usually don't see that coming. They're lucky to block it when he does throw it. He also does very well in the clinch up against the cage. At one point, I believe, Howney could have fought for a title. It was just a case of he didn't get the fights that he deserved, and he wasn't as active as he should have been. So it kind of got put on the back burner, and now he's late into his career, and he's finally taken a lot of fights, and they're not going his way. But I do believe in his prime that he was capable of at least fighting for a title. He's got great front kicks up the middle, uses it kind of like a jab, and follows it up with quick punches. He throws nice uppercuts, has nice trip takedowns. I would like to see him use his grappling more. I can't say enough good things about his technique. If he would use his grappling more, he is actually pretty good, so I think he would have a lot of success with it. He has 8 wins by knockout and 2 by submission. And, has the age caught up with him? Because a few years ago, I would say Barcelos wins this all day. He would probably be a big favorite. It's just kind of a deal of, are we holding on to what was? His only win recently was over Trevin Jones. And Trevin is kind of known for going out there and letting himself down by not throwing enough volume and waiting until the end of the fight to really push the pace. And he's taking on Kyler Phillips. He is 28 years old, 5'8", with a 72-inch reach. He is 10-2 and 4-1 in the UFC. And he's a minus 163 favorite. Phillips is going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. He's an amazing fighter, great footwork, very fast and explosive. 5 wins by knockout and 2 by submission. Throws nice combinations, likes the... He likes to throw the jab up top and then the body shot and then the left hook. It's something that he was throwing quite a bit in some of the fights that I lost, that combination. He had, what was I saying? Wow. Yeah, it's hot today, guys. He had a lot of success with that combination in his last fight. Throws a lot of big spinning and jumping attacks, which I kind of wish he would do, less of that, because it does burn up the gas tank. Lots of hard calf kicks. Very good at transitioning to the back, even when he's got his opponents up against the cage, standing. Nice spinning hook kicks, nice foot sweeps. Moves in and out of the pocket very well. Has a very wide variety of strikes. Lots of good things, that he does, and he's fought some pretty tough competition as well. There's a big part of me that wants to pick Barcelos, but like I said, are we holding on to what was? There's all these unanswered questions, and going based off what we've seen in his last, 4 fights, not a lot of good things. So, because of how things have been with Barcelos and the fact that Kyler is, actually a very good fighter, very talented, I'm going to be going with Kyler Phillips. I'm going to say he gets the win by decision. It's really hard to turn down the plus money on Barcelos, but if you go back and look at, Kyler Phillips' last loss, it was, to Rulian Paiva. But I actually think he won that fight, in my opinion. So I don't understand how it was a unanimous decision for Paiva, but whatever. That's the only blemish on his record lately. And next up, we got Billy Quarantillo taking on Damon Jackson. And Billy Quarantillo is 34 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach. and he is 17-5 and 5-3 in the UFC, and he's a minus 175 favorite. Both of these guys are coming off knockout losses. Billy was doing pretty well against Barboza until he got caught with that knee. Just kind of recklessly shooting him for a takedown. Can't do that to Barboza. Some of Billy's best weapons are his pace and his cardio. And like we saw in the Hernandez fight, he survived the storm and used his superior conditioning to beat Hernandez. And he fought a lot of tough guys, man. 8 wins by knockout, 5 by submission. I wouldn't call him an expert in any one area. He just mixes everything up very well, and he has a really good cardio to back it up. And he just pressures, pressure fights. And he makes sure that you have a lot to think about. He's shooting for takedowns, going back up top to the punches. He doesn't just focus on one thing. He's constantly going for everything. And that's what makes him so successful. Throws a lot of volume. He will need to be the one pushing forward, just like Dan Ige did against Jackson. That in Jackson's last fight, Ige just kind of kept him on the back foot, making it harder for Jackson to shoot for the takedowns. And eventually Dan was able to get the finish. So Damon Jackson is 34 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach. He is 22-5-1 and 5'3", 1-1 in the UFC. 1 draw, 1 no contest. And he's a plus 150 underdog. And I had my doubts about Jackson coming into the UFC, but he has proven to be a very tough guy. He put together a good win streak before his last fight. Jackson is very experienced. He's been around. He's fought in Bellator, the PFL, LFA, UFC now. Has very good jiu-jitsu from top position. And what I mean by that is just, he hasn't showed a lot of subs off of his back. It's usually subs from when he's using his wrestling and he's on top. And he has 4 wins by knockout, 15 by submission. Has a really good wrestling background, All-American at Missouri Valley College. And that's where he's had most of his success. If he can get the takedowns, he's very good at controlling guys and staying heavy on top. And, his most impressive win was when he went and knocked out Pat Sabatini just real quick. Just walked out, hit him a few times and was done, and not a lot of people can do that to Pat. So Damon's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Jackson likes to come out very strong and push a hard pace in the beginning of the fight, but in my opinion, he's usually pretty tired by the 3rd round. And I would say that Billy will have the advantage on the feet just because I don't think highly of Jackson's striking. I think Billy has the cardio advantage. I could see Jackson having success early in this fight, but I do think Billy will take over in rounds 2 and 3 and maybe get a late finish. So I'm going to be taking Quarantilla to get the win by 3rd round KO. And next up, we got Ignacio Bahamondes taking on Ludovic Klein. And this should be a very exciting fight while it lasts. Bahamondes is 25 years old, 6'3", with a 75.5-inch reach, 14-4 and 3-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 205 favorite. And I'm a very big fan of Ignacio's. I really like his striking, and I've been very impressed with what I've seen out of him. That spinning wheel kick knockout that he had against Roosevelt Roberts was amazing. Perfectly thrown, right to the chin, just awesome. He's very tall and long for the weight class. He's going to have a 3.5-inch reach advantage. He showed us that he's well-rounded and has good submissions as well. He's young. He's going to be constantly improving. He's very technically sound with his Muay Thai. He uses his reach very well. Lots of nice straight shots. He fights very long. And he's very good at counter-striking. And throws a ton of calf kicks. He switches stances constantly, and he's very effective from both sides. Pushes a tough pace and has the cardio to back it up. There's not a lot of wind-up on his shots. His spin attacks are very smooth. So far, his takedown defense has been pretty good. And I don't think he's going to have to worry about takedowns in this fight, though. Klein's primarily known for his kickboxing. So, and Ludovic Klein is 28 years old, 5'7", with a 72-inch reach. He is 19-4-1 and 3-2-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 175 underdog. And would y'all believe it that on my notes, I just have like little bullet points. I don't have a whole bunch written down. I just have little bullet points of things, and half of this stuff just comes out of my freaking head. That's why I can't ever focus. I've got too much information in my head, man. And now I don't even remember where I left off. He's plus 175 underdog. So I feel like Klein has tons of potential, but just hasn't really lived up to it yet. 8 wins by knockout, 8 by submission. which is surprising because he's not really known for his ground game, and he's a great kickboxer, very powerful and explosive. He came into the UFC with a couple of head kick knockouts, and that was down at featherweight. Since he's come up to lightweight, he hasn't had any finishes. Seems to have worked on his takedown defense a lot. Seems to have gotten a little bit better, but he does get taken down quite often, and it has improved though. And he really looked horrible in his last fight. That draw with Jai Herbert. Which he would have lost that fight if the point wasn't taken. I forget what Herbert did that got a point taken, and that's kind of a similar matchup to this fight. Jai Herbert's a tall, rangy kickboxer, just like Bahamondes is, and lately Klein has been prone to using his own takedowns a bit because he's kind of been getting outstruck on the feet, man, and I just don't know what's going on with him, man. And I don't think that Klein will be able to take Ignacio down. I think Klein's left high kick is one of his best weapons. I do like his striking quite a bit. When he's on, his cardio has looked questionable sometimes, and other times it looked pretty good. It just depends on if the fight's going his way or not. Like the Mason Jones fight, his cardio held up pretty good, and then against Herbert, he was kind of gassed out in the third round. So he has he's very fast with his combinations. Has a really nice jab. He uses his right. He fights southpaw, so he uses his right hand for the jab, and he's very, very snappy and very nice. He's always live for a knockout, and even though I think Ignacio, has this one in the bag, but this is a very risky fight to bet on, in my opinion. Both these guys are very powerful strikers, so I'm gonna be taking Bahamondes to get the win. I'm gonna say like a third round finish. Maybe he hurts Klein in the third round and jumps on the neck and gets a submission, a guillotine, or something of that sort. So be going with Bahamondes. And next up we got probably the most boring fight on the card. Tanner Boser versus Aleska Kamer. And Tanner is 32 years old, 6'2", with a 75.5-inch reach. He is 20, 10-1, and 4-5 in the UFC, and he's somehow a minus 185 favorite. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He dropped down to light heavyweight. He was in great shape. He looked like he was in amazing shape, and he went out and got his ass kicked by Kutalaba. So, and I picked Boser to win that fight. I thought he was going to look amazing down at 205. He hasn't really looked good really at all lately. If you go back and look at his last, I watched his last 4 fights. He did have that win over Oven St. Prusse, and that was 2 years ago. But St. Prusse isn't what he used to be. He's not the old Oven St. Prusse anyway. And he has 11 wins by knockout. 2 by submission. He's a big guy. He's gonna have a 1.5-inch reach advantage. He's got heavy hands. He was moving really fast in his last fight until he got caught, man. And his takedown defense hasn't looked very good in the UFC. Of course, that was mostly at heavyweight. Boser has a lot more experience than Kamer. Not really sure what to think about this fight because both these guys haven't looked all that good, in a while. He's taking on Aleska Kamer. He's 27 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. He is 6-2 and 1-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 160 underdog. And he's got 5 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. We haven't seen this guy fight in 2 years. I'm assuming that he went back to the drawing board after his first 2, after losing his last 2 in the UFC. And I'm assuming he's been working on all the holes in his game. He's a good striker, throws a lot of spin kicks, question mark kicks. You could really tell, that he was still kind of learning on the job when he was coming into the UFC, with so few fights. And in the beginning, he was just kind of throwing everything with full force and wearing himself out very quickly. Haven't seen much to like here either, but I'm going to be picking Alexa Kamer because I feel like this fight could go either way, and I'd rather, risk a little to win a lot than a lot to win a little, if you know what I mean. So, did I say that right? Yeah, so I'd rather bet on the underdog. I'd rather take him to win the plus money than I would take a risk on Boser to win little money because they're both kind of undependable. I'll take Kamer to win. I'm going to say he wins by knockout. Maybe he's a new man after 2 years out training hard, whatever, but I seriously doubt this one will probably make it and maybe make it into a Hail Mary parlay, but it won't make it into anything I take seriously. So, uh, yeah, this is not really. This is one of the fights on the card. I'm like, why? Next up, we got Gavin Tucker taking on Diego Lopez, and Gavin Tucker. We haven't seen Gavin Tucker in a while either. Um, Gavin Tucker is 37 years old, 5'6", with a 66-inch reach. He is 13-2 and 4-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 115 underdog. And yeah, Gavin is a really good fighter. Aside from making the mistake of just kind of running straight into a punch against Dan Ige, right when the fight started, kind of ran in with his hands down. We've seen that happen to fighters before. It happens sometimes, but Gavin has 4 wins by knockout, 6 by submission. That fight, the fight that he really impressed me and made me realize how good he is was the Billy Quarantillo fight. Gavin just looked amazing in that fight. And, we haven't seen Gavin in 2.5 years, which worries me a bit here. He throws very powerful kicks to the body. He invests quite a bit, in the body. He was using the knees in the clinch and punches and just everything. Really, really going to the body of Billy Quarantillo to, slow him down because Billy has such great cardio. And he was able to slow Quarantillo down in that fight. And, Gavin's got pretty good takedowns. He's very slick with his trips, slick boxing, triples up the jab at times. He's a great grappler, man. Stays really heavy on guys, very fast punches. I like a lot of what I've seen out of Gavin Tucker. Cardio seemed to be pretty good, but this is all what I was seeing, 2 years ago. And I wish I could pick his brain and ask him what he's been doing this whole time. I don't know if he was out due to an injury or what, but I do know he is a very talented fighter, and he has really impressed me at times. And looking forward to seeing him again. So he's taking on Diego Lopez. He is 28 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach. He is 21-6 and 0-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 135 favorite. And this guy made a name for himself taking on Movsar Evelev on short notice. And he made a good account of himself in the first round anyway. He's going to have a big height and reach advantage here, 6 inches of reach. He showed that he's very dangerous with his jiu-jitsu and off his back. He had lost his fight on the Contender Series to Joe Anderson Brito, but there's no shame there. Brito is very powerful. He's constantly throws up submissions off of his back. He's very well-rounded, dangerous striking, but he does seem a little bit too comfortable on his back going for submissions at times, which unfortunately won't win him a fight, if it goes to decision. He did almost catch Movsar in quite a few submissions in the first round, but after that he was pretty gassed. He has 11 wins by submission, 8 wins by knockout. Not the most technical striker for a guy with such a long reach. He was throwing kind of a lot of big hooks and stuff, and really really goes hard in the first round and slows down quite a bit after. I honestly think Gavin is better in the striking department, but on the ground Lopez has the advantage. This is a hard pick for me. If Gavin had been more active, I would pick him all day, no questions asked. And I'm still going to pick him just because it's plus money, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got submitted, but if Gavin comes in shape and he's been training hard the whole time, he'll get the win. And I would much rather trust Gavin for I've seen him go a full 3 rounds impressively and get the victory before against Billy Quarantillo, tough opponent, rather than seeing Diego Lopez come out and have a decent first round while getting beaten up by Evliev. He almost caught him in a couple submissions, but ultimately, Movsar got out of it and was on top of him, controlling him, and, had the whole fight in the bag pretty much still. I mean, it's cool to like people for being tough, but I'm not going to invest heavily in that just because he looked okay getting beaten. So I'll take Gavin to win by decision. Next up, we got Dustin Jacoby taking on Kennedy Nzechukwu. And this is a good fight, man, but I like both these guys a lot. So I hate seeing these two guys fight each other, but I'm also excited to see them fight. Dustin is 35 years old, 6'3", with a 76-inch reach, 18-7-1, and he is 6-4-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 125 underdog. And Dustin's a former Glory kickboxer, really good striking, 11 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. Usually just kind of out points guys to a decision. Uses a lot of kicks. Pretty good striking defense. Throws a lot of volume. Switches stances a lot. His best punch is the straight right hand down the middle. That's what he caught Don Jung with and knocked him out. And his last fight didn't go his way, man. He kind of made a mistake, in that fight because he hurt Mazakhanov in the third round after losing the first two rounds. He was on his way to losing that fight. He hurt him in the third round, and Mazakhanov was gassed. And Jacoby hurt him, and instead of going for the finish, he decided to wrestle. And kind of wasted the opportunity. Kind of spoiled it for himself. But Jacoby was hurt quite a few times in that fight, so I can't really blame him. Maybe he wasn't thinking straight. Maybe he didn't realize he had him hurt. And he doesn't always throw, with tons of power, but he always out volumes his opponents, and we saw that like in the Khalil Roundtree fight. He outlanded Khalil all the way down the board, and they gave it to Khalil, even though he was like doubled up on strikes. So that can hurt him at times, but he is a very good fighter, man. He's very good at striking. He's very good at staying out the way of big punches. I've had money on Dustin in most of his fights, in the UFC. Um, I'm a big fan of his, man. It's hard to say if this is a good matchup for him or not. I guess if he doesn't get taken down, he has the speed advantage and he is a better striker. But this is going to be a very, very tough fight for him. And he's taking on Kennedy Nchekwu. He is 31 years old, 6'5", with an 83-inch reach. That might be the longest reach in the UFC. He is 12-3 and 6-3 in the UFC, and he's a minus 145 favorite. And Kennedy is absolutely huge, man. He's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage, 8 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. Kennedy's kind of a slow starter, man. We've seen him, a lot of times come out and get beat up in the first round and come back and get the finish. That's why he's so exciting to watch. Like the Carlos Olberg fight, he was out there and Olberg hit him with everything and couldn't put him away and gassed himself out, and Kennedy knocked him out in the second round. He fights well in the clinch, man. He's hard to keep down, and he's hard to take down as well. Such a big guy, man, and he's been looking better every time we've seen him. His wrestling isn't bad at all. He gets rocked, but he's hard to put away. He has great conditioning. He's really good at controlling guys up against the cage and working his elbows and stuff like that. He was really beating up Devin Clark with those in his last fight. And I really want Jacoby to win this fight, man. I hate having to pass up the plus money on him. But I think Kennedy's probably going to smother Dustin up against the cage and try to get him down. Otherwise, Dustin's going to dance around and pick him apart, from the outside. And it is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be a full-size big cage or not, where Dustin will have more room. But I'm going to be picking Kennedy to get the win by decision. But I'll probably end up, I like to make my underdog parlays sometimes, so I'll probably make an underdog parlay with a few underdogs that I like and that I think have a chance, and I'll probably put Jacoby on that because I am rooting for him, man. I want to see him win this fight, but I think it's a bad matchup for him. Next up, we got the co-main event. Jessica Andrade taking on Tatiana Suarez. I wish this wasn't the main event. Not really hyped on this fight. Are y'all? Jessica Andrade is 31 years old, 5'1", with a 62-inch reach. She is 24-11 and 24-11 and 15-9 in the UFC, and she's a plus 350 underdog. And this line's really out of hand. Andrade has 9 wins by knockout, 8 by submission. She's coming off 2 finish losses. Her takedown defense didn't hold up at 125, and she got caught by Jan and at 115. And it's been a rough for her the past few fights. And she's still a world-class fighter. She's very powerful, a former champion. If you want to see what she's capable of, go watch the Lauren Murphy fight. She beat the crap out of Murphy. And I'm assuming that maybe it's Andrade's takedown defense that everybody's loading up against her. And I guess I see where they're coming from, but there's no way for that price that I'm gonna be putting money on Suarez after what we've seen here lately of women's MMA. So all the big upsets that have been happening. Like I said, with Stoliarenko last week, I think Molly was a minus 400 favorite, minus 500 favorite. So she's taking on Tatiana Suarez. She's 32 years old, 5'5", with a 66-inch reach. She is 9-0 and 6-0 in the UFC, and she's a minus 450 favorite. 2 wins by knockout, 4 by submission. And it's been years since we've seen her make 115. Her last fight was at 125. So we're going to have to see how she looks there. That could lead to her gassing out or something, a bad weight cut. You never know. Her bread and butter is her wrestling and her jiu-jitsu. She is very good. She's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. I think Andrade is a better striker. I'm going to be picking Suarez to get the win by submission, but I don't really think it's worth the price at all. So I hope Andrade wins. I hope it's another major upset. And if anybody could do it, it's her, man. She's very tough. She hits very hard, very well-rounded, got great submissions as well. So, we'll see what happens. But I'm pretty sure Suarez is just going to, take her down and either get a submission or just get a unanimous decision, just control her on the ground the whole time. So, could have been a better co-main event than that. And next up, we got the main event. Corey Sandhagen taking on Rob Font. And Corey is 31 years old. He's 5'11" with a 70-inch reach. He is 16-4 and 9-3 in the UFC, and he's a minus 265 favorite. And yeah, it really sucks that Nurmagomedov had to drop out, man. That's the fight that we all wanted to see. But nonetheless, Rob Font's very fun to watch. He's very exciting. Corey has 7 wins by knockout, 3 by submission. He has very good footwork. He's very tricky. He's hard to hit. We saw that in the Marlon Vera fight. Vera couldn't get anything going, couldn't catch him. And Corey's really looked better and better, all the times we've seen him. If we take a look at his record, man, I don't agree that he even lost these 2 fights here. He beat Yadong Song. He was beating him up. The Peter Yan fight was very close, and Sandhagen could have won that fight. The Dillashaw fight, though, I really thought that Corey won that fight. I don't know why they gave it to Dillashaw, and and it was all for nothing because Dillashaw went out and fought with one arm because his arm came out of the socket into the Sterling fight. So it was kind of all for nothing. Corey should have had that fight. He's beat Frankie Edgar, Marlon Moraes. He did lose to Aljamain Sterling, a few years ago, about 3 years ago. Rafael Sunsal, John Lineker, Mario Batista. He's very tricky, man, off his back as well. He submitted Mario Batista with an armbar. And I can't really say enough good things about Corey, man. And, he does a lot of jumping knees and stuff, very tricky elbow attacks and stuff like that. He's very exciting. I was rooting for Vera in the last fight, but, whatever. I think Corey has a good shot at getting a title, at least for a little bit, in this division. I really would have liked to see that Nurmagomedov fight, though. He's taking on Rod Font. He is 36 years old, 5'8", with a 71.5-inch reach. He is 20-6 and 10-5 in the UFC, and he's going to have a 1.5-inch reach advantage. He's a plus 225 underdog. 9 wins by knockout and 4 by submission. He's a really great boxer. He looked really great. He knocked out Adrian Yanez his last time out and made Adrian Yanez look like he didn't belong, in that fight, which I didn't expect at all. Yanez has been looking very good. So, but yeah, Rob's got very good head movement, slick boxing. He's very powerful. And he's fought a lot of tough competition as well, man. If you really look at it, he's not primarily known for, his jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. At least not in the UFC, but, if you look at his record, he did drop a fight to Marlon Vera, dropped a fight to Jose Aldo, and the Vera fight he was doing very good. He was out voluming Vera, but Vera was catching him with a big shot in every round and dropping him, so therefore he lost the decision. He beat Cody Garbrandt, Marlon Moraes, Ricky Simone. That Ricky Simone win is very impressive. He beat Sergio Pettis, and Sergio's the Bellator champ right now. He had a win over Douglas Silva de Andrade, Matt Schnell. He's fought a lot of tough people, man, and very talented. He's a veteran, and I don't think that he's going to be able to get around the footwork and the speed and the accuracy of of Corey Sandhagen. The way Corey has looked lately, man, his guys really can't even touch him. They can't get to him, man, and he's in and out. Throwing tons of volume, landing lots of shots, really busting guys up. And I'm going to be taking Corey Sandhagen to get the win. It's kind of hard. I kind of want to pick him to win by finish. But when was the last time Rob Font was finished? I guess he lost to Pedro Munoz back in the day by guillotine choke. He's never been knocked out in the UFC, so I'll take Corey Sandhagen to win by decision, unanimous decision. I think his footwork's going to be too much for Font. But it's going to be a fun fight, man. I look forward to it. I wouldn't be mad whoever wins this fight. I'd like to see them both succeed. I'm a big fan of them both. So, um, and that's it as far as my picks, guys. And as far as my bets go, let me pull these up here real quick. As far as my bets go, man, I've got. Well, let me show you the other ones first. As far as my bets go, as far as a single play, I only have one single play on Jake Hadley. Is at minus 160. That's a 1 unit play. And I have a big play on Corey Sandhagen at minus 250. That's a 3 unit play. And I've got a 2 fight parlay. Sandhagen and Phillips. It's a plus 139. And that's a 1 unit play. And as far as parlays go, um, I haven't put together I didn't put together a Hail Mary parlay. I'm just kind of cutting back on my parlays a little bit. But I've got a 4 fight parlay that's Phillips, Hadley, Bahamondes, and Sandhagen. That's a plus 443. And then the next parlay, I had all them, and I added Woodson and Quarantillo. That's plus 944. And then I added to that Wells and Tucker, and that's plus 3,295. And I'll probably end up doing a Hail Mary parlay, but y'all can just go off my picks for that. So, but yeah, man, that's it for me, guys. I really appreciate y'all. Please like and subscribe. Please comment and give me a like, man. I really, really appreciate it. It'll help me out a lot. And thank y'all for listening to me and caring about what I have to say, man. So y'all have a good one, man. I'm out of here.